As the Me Too movement has grown to include problems in government, we have an exclusive investigation tonight about the U.S. Forest Service and allegations of long-time sexual misconduct and gender discrimination within the agency. From its inception in 1905, the Forest Service has been a male-dominated field. Even today, women make up only a third of the service, and even less, just 13%, within the ranks of Forest Service firefighters, who perform extremely dangerous and important work across the country. But as William Brangham and our production team report, women say that not only have they faced harassment and discrimination, but when they speak out about it, they are punished even more.
He's like, "I'm glad you're on the crew because you're sexy and you have a nice ass." I was like, "Excuse me? Like, those aren't reasons."
This is your boss?
Yes.
Last summer, Michaela Myers was working as a firefighter in Oregon with the U.S. Forest Service. As she detailed in a formal complaint, she was repeatedly sexually harassed by her older male supervisor.
He would touch me, he'd grope my butt, like my waist. Yeah, it was just uncomfortable.
At first, she debated whether to report him. She said a male colleague warned her not to.
He was like, "Well, if you want to stay in fire, this is going to happen. And you can report it and face retaliation, or you can do nothing and stay in fire."
Those were the choices you were given.
Yes.
Speak up and get beaten down for it, or deal with it.
Yeah.
And Michaela Myers is not alone. The PBS NewsHour has spoken to 34 women across 13 states who claim they've experienced gender discrimination, sexual harassment, and in some cases, sexual assault and rape in the U.S. Forest Service. And many said when they spoke up, they faced retaliation. NewsHour producer Elizabeth Flock has been reporting this story for months.
What really came through to us was this culture of retaliation that they talked about, and when they reported misconduct, the reprisal they faced, which took so many different forms, from withholding of training to denying or stripping their duties, demotions, and sort of the slow chipping away at them until these women felt like they weren't a part of the workforce.
This issue first got national attention in late 2016 when Forest Service employees from California told Congress about rampant sexual harassment and retaliation.
He had taken a letter opener and poked my breasts, both breasts, with a smile on his face in this arrogant way, like he could get away with it. And I just stood there in shock. He has cornered me in the bathroom. He has lifted my shirt up. He has stalked me.
Representative Trey Gowdy pressed Lenice Lago, who's a senior official in the Forest Service.
Well, if memory serves, her perpetrator was allowed to retire. Is that correct? Had you heard that before today?
Yes.
You mean to tell me that someone can engage in the conduct that Ms. Rice just described and avoid all consequence whatsoever?
Per the federal regulations, yes. Someone can retire or resign in lieu of being removed.
We asked the U.S. Forest Service to talk with us on camera about all this. I'm standing in front of their headquarters here. They declined all of our requests. Off camera, one senior official told us that they have taken steps to address the problem. They've set up a crisis hotline where any employee can call in to make complaints, and they said that later this year they're going to institute mandatory anti-harassment training for all employees.
You know, I would come home just covered in either soot or dirt from working, and I really liked that part of it.
Abby Bolt is a battalion chief in California's Sequoia National Forest. When she first got into firefighting 20 years ago, she knew it was a tough and macho environment.
Hey, baby.
She didn't complain about the pornography that was left on her truck seat or the physical hazing. And later, as she rose through the ranks of the Forest Service, she saw other women speak up and suffer for it.
Watching somebody that would file a complaint or make a complaint immediately became the problem. And, you know, we have the term that girl or those girls. I don't want to be one of those girls. You know, I've introduced myself that way to people, I think, before, like, "Hey, I'm Abby, don't worry, I'm not one of those girls." Or
one of those girls being someone who simply says, "That behavior is wrong, let's do something about it."
Exactly. I was trained that way. My whole, don't be one of those girls.
Bolt says 6 years ago, she had a harrowing experience where this culture of not complaining came back to haunt her. In 2012, while she was fighting a fire in Colorado along with multiple other agencies, another firefighter, not from the Forest Service, raped her.
It was toward the end of the assignment, and I just don't think I can say the word, but I mean, I can just say, I mean, we know what sexually assaulted means, right? So I woke up the next day covered in bruises, and I'm just like, this is not happening. I'm not this person, I'm not this girl.
She got a rape kit and filed a police report, but she didn't end up pressing charges, and she didn't report it to the Forest Service.
I could just see this whole process going down, and the only person that was going to lose everything in their world was going to be me and my family. They were going to, I've seen how it goes down. The person that complains becomes the trash.
This firefighter did report her attack and soon felt like she was the problem. She asked to remain anonymous and for her voice to be changed out of fear of retribution. Her story begins 2 years ago when she was working a fire in Montana and was raped by another Forest Service firefighter.
What turned into just a normal drinking night with a few buddies turned into basically resulted in me being raped. I woke up and my barracks had been rummaged through. I had no clothes on. I had no sheets. I had no phone. My door was open. I felt ashamed that I, had been partying or been letting loose, like I had somehow brought this upon myself. That was how I initially felt. And I really didn't want to go forward. I did not want to tell anybody. I didn't. I really didn't. I felt like it was going to be more problems.
But she did report it. Her rapist was arrested and she believes fired by the Forest Service. She was satisfied at first, but then she was transferred immediately to a new forest.
When I showed up to the new forest, they denied me any classes, any courses, any trainings.
When she complained and asked to go back, she says they tried to force her out. This was all within a month of her rape.
They said, this isn't the meeting I know that you were expecting, but we've had some complaints that you have had vulgar language, showed innuendos, and been inappropriate.
What do you think is going on there?
I think that I was a problem. I think that my privacy was not protected, that my story was known, and that I was a problem because I was speaking out, because I was telling about a sexual assault. That's exactly how I felt. That's how I feel still.
Rather than be fired, she says she was advised to resign. That way, she could take another position within the service, which she did. The Forest Service would not comment on any specific case, citing privacy concerns. Last year, Michaela Myers decided to report her supervisor's alleged groping.
I wanted justice, but I wasn't in it for some personal vendetta. I don't want this to happen to other women, and I don't want him to do it in the future.
Her complaint detailed several instances of inappropriate physical contact. Once he rubbed her butt. Another time it was her inner thigh. Another time he grabbed her breasts, put his hand between her legs, and groped her. 2 months later, the Forest Service sent her a letter.
It said an investigation against allegations of misconduct was conducted, and we found that there was no misconduct. And so then it just feels like you're screaming into a void, this happened, and nobody hears that or believes, or they hear it and don't believe it at all.
Her case was closed, and that supervisor continues to work for the Forest Service. Despite that, she's going to work another season, this time in Washington. She says she had inquiries from several states, but not Oregon, where she worked before.
I'm on some Oregon blacklist, the Oregon Me Too blacklist, but it's very much a good old boys culture. It's a man's world in fire, or they think it is.
Abby Bolt says, completely separate from being raped, which, remember, she did not report, she has also endured years of consistent bullying and harassment from her supervisors. She says it intensified after she filed a gender discrimination complaint in 2014. Recently, she's been getting anonymous, intimidating notes at work. One singled out that she was a single mother, another an article insinuating she was a manipulator. When she officially complained, she was told the investigation could not proceed as there was no accused person to interview. Last October, someone scrawled "quit" onto the window of her vehicle. Bolt says the cumulative effect of all this bullying is wearing her down.
After the notes that were left, I couldn't get out of my truck. I would pull up to the office and I just couldn't get out. I don't know, like I felt so weak. You think you're crazy. I mean, I've really gone through a lot of this thinking like I am crazy. You have official people from all the way at the Washington office level telling you in documents that none of it's, they're either not going to look into it, or they've denied your grievance, or, you spoke up and they said there was nothing to see here, and you start to feel nuts.
Bolt worries that speaking out means her retaliation is only going to get worse. But she wants other women to know they're not alone.
There are so many women out there that are so afraid. I've talked to them and I've said, you need to speak up, and I'll hear like, I'm so close to retirement, Abby, I can't, or I've come this far, or I have to support my family and I can't do that. And if I lose my job now, that it helps me get a little bit better. I'm at the point where I stand up for what's right, and at this point, if that's what it means, then that's what it means.
Tomorrow night, we'll look more at the retaliation women in the Forest Service face when they speak out. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham in Sequoia National Forest.
So disturbing. That story was produced by Lorna Baldwin and Emily Carpeau, and it included extensive reporting by Elizabeth Flock and Josh Barajas. Online, you can read our expanded coverage of the U.S. Forest Service. You can hear more women's stories, see photos and video. All that is at pbs.org/newshour.